Hello there, sugar plums. Today we are going to talk about pronouns, because guess what? Pronouns are lit. I just learned that word. It means it's cool. So, what's a pronoun? A pronoun is basically something that takes the place of a noun, hence its title, a pronoun. So, pronouns are extremely useful because they allow us to avoid sounding really boring and like we're three. So here's an example of a sentence that does not effectively utilize, a paragraph that does not effectively utilize pronouns. Read along with me. It says, John loves to swim. John swims 1 mile every day. John is training for a triathlon. If John races fast enough, he will qualify for the Ironman triathlon in Hawaii. This is John's dream. John sounds pretty awesome. However, this paragraph sounds pretty much like the worst thing of my life. It makes me want to cry a little because it's so boring. It sounds like one of those books that little kids learn to read with because they just repeat the same thing over and over again. So to avoid that repetitious feeling and to make your writing sound a little more sophisticated, you want to be able to effectively use pronouns. So this is pretty super easy. Basically, you want to figure out where in this paragraph you can substitute John for something else, such as he. So, in this case, or his, or him. In this case, we want to start with John because we need to introduce him. So John loves to swim should stay just as it is. But then we don't need to say John's name again like 3 seconds later. So you can say John loves to swim. He swims 1 mile every day. He is training for a triathlon. If he races fast enough, he will qualify. Oh, look, I even forgot one right there. He will qualify for the Ironman triathlon in Hawaii. This is John's dream. The last one, you could maybe leave it as John. You could say his. Either way. But it's a pretty clear-cut paragraph. It only talks about this one guy named John. Now let's make it a little more complicated and let's read about jazzercise. Jazzercise is my favorite workout. That sounds pretty good, right? Then I go, jazzercise brings popular music together with cardio dance moves to create a fast-paced and fabulous workout. I feel like I just said jazzercise too many times. So jazzercise is my favorite workout. It brings popular music together with cardio dance moves to create a fast-paced and fabulous workout. At jazzercise class, I lift weights, punch, kick, and mambo. Okay, so far so good. Then we have Mrs. Major and Miss Gillen are my jazzercise buddies. Mrs. Major and Miss Gillen and I like to get up very early to go to 5:30 a.m. class. Jazzercise is also what Miss Gillen, Mrs. Major, and I this is awful, right? We don't want to do that. So we're going to get rid of all those boring Mrs. Major and Miss Gillen, Mrs. Major and Miss Gillen, and we're going to change it to what? To they or we. So when it says Mrs. Major and Miss Gillen and I, we can say we, or as Mrs. Major would like to say, my besties. So we like to get up very early to go to 5:30 a.m. class. Jazzercise is also what we do before we eat Chipotle and watch The Bachelor. And because The Bachelor is a TV show, we need to italicize it. Right? Right. Excellent. Okay, so as you can see, we have made this paragraph and the one before it far better by substituting some of our proper nouns with pronouns. You can also substitute regular nouns with pronouns, like if, for example, you said, tacos are so yummy. Tacos make my heart happy. Which is so true. Tacos are delicious. I highly recommend the pork pastor tacos at Tortilla Press. So tacos are so yummy. Tacos make my heart happy. That second tacos, we already know you're talking about tacos. You could say, they make my heart happy. Got it? Great. Okay. So let's move on. Let's talk about some of the annoying things that happen with pronouns. So one fun term that'll make you sound really smart if you say it is this term right here, the antecedent. And you may have noticed this beginning part, ante, ante, is a word root, and it means before. So the antecedent is the noun that comes before a pronoun. So basically, in the case of this tacos are so yummy, they make my heart happy, they is the pronoun, and tacos is the antecedent. So clarity issues happen when you don't make it clear what the antecedent is before a pronoun. So for example, one of the things you guys love to do is when you're writing an essay and I ask you a question or you're just responding to a short answer, I'll say, explain why blank is a good idea. And you'll write, this is a good idea because you can develop your trivia skills and spend time with your fellow trivia-loving friends, for example. So the problem with that answer that makes me want to gouge my eyes out a little bit is that I don't know what is a good idea because you started your response with this. You should never start a response with this unless you've given me very clear evidence of what this is referring to. Because this is just a pronoun. It doesn't mean anything without the antecedent. So in the case of this case, the antecedent that I was referring to is Jeopardy. So, or watching Jeopardy. So instead of saying this, you should say watching Jeopardy is a good idea because you can develop your trivia skills and spend time with your fellow trivia-loving friends. Also, little fun note, Jeopardy's a TV show, so we're going to italicize it because it's a title. What up? So now we have a nice, clear response instead of this is a good idea, because I will promise you, I will write on your paper, what the heck is this? How am I supposed to know? Super annoying. Another problem that can happen is if you have a sentence and you refer to more than one person and then you use a pronoun and it's unclear about who the person is. So for example, if you have a sentence like Sarah and Haley went to her house, my question is going to be, who's her? Is it Sarah's house? Is it Haley's house? Is it their random friend Marissa's house who hasn't even been mentioned yet? So you need to be clearer here about this, and you have to say Sarah and Haley went to Sarah's house. It might sound a little weird to say Sarah and Sarah so close together, but Sarah's the best name ever, so it's okay. And also, you need it for the sake of clarity. So the last sentence I want to show you is this one, where it says, they stood on their heads whenever they were upset. Now, the problem with this one is you have they, their, and they, and we're not really sure if you're talking about the same group of people each time or if you mean a different group. Maybe what I mean by that is they, the clowns, stood on their heads whenever maybe, I don't know, the elephants were upset. So maybe the clowns stood on their heads whenever the elephants were upset. Or maybe it's the clowns stood on their heads whenever they were upset. In that case, we can assume you're talking about the clowns. So it's really, really super important that you use pronouns to avoid being repetitive, but that you also make sure that your pronoun references are clear and that there's no question about who you're talking about when you say this or he or she. I should always know what this is or who he is or who she is. So that is your intro to pronouns. Pronouns rock. They are lit. You should understand them. They will be on your quickie quiz, which will be happening in the relatively near future, and I love your faces.